I ultimately cost a condescending Navy officer his career and forced him into massive debt. And it all started with a single, arrogant letter he thought no one would see. In today's story, the protagonist's choice is a masterclass in how to handle it. This all went down about a year and a half ago. But the full story of my revenge took time to play out. For a few years, I was an enlisted Navy service member stationed in Yokosuka, Japan. I worked in the main hospital there, which cares for all the service members and their families. It's a small hospital, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody else's business. Shortly after I transferred back to the United States, I started hearing about a new physician officer in the radiology department. A Dr. Harrison. My friend still stationed there told me he was horrible to work with. But that's nothing new in the military. Then, things took a turn. One of my friends, Jenna, saw him print a letter and leave it on his desk. She snapped a picture of it and sent it to me. It was a formal request to be moved out of his assigned housing. Now, for some context, military housing is available for service members with families or for certain ranks, depending on the base. In Yokosuka, an overseas base, the housing is pretty much the same across the board. It's mostly apartment buildings, which we call towers. There are 9 towers in total, but only 2 are designated for officers, simply because enlisted personnel vastly outnumber them. It's every service member's own responsibility to get their housing sorted out before they arrive. If you're late to apply and space is limited, you get put wherever there's an opening. That's exactly what happened to our new officer, Dr. Harrison. He got placed in an enlisted tower. This wasn't some unprecedented event. Plenty of officers have lived in enlisted housing before without a single complaint, alongside enlisted members and their families. But Dr. Harrison, a man with a PhD, felt he was above it all. His letter was a masterwork of snobbery. He wrote, "I have many valid objections to living in a building of almost all enlisted and even many lower enlisted being an officer." Dr. Harrison, in his bubble of perceived superiority, penned the words that would systematically dismantle his entire career. He was so convinced of his own importance that he failed to see the glaring flaw in his plan. The letter had to be read by the very enlisted personnel he so openly despised. He continued, painting us as a horde of degenerates. There is a lot of crime, violent actions, drug use and alcoholism that happen in enlisted housing. He claimed, there are also sexual assaults and other perverts. The letter then took a deeply personal and insulting turn. I have a good-looking family, a wife and 2 daughters aged 3 and 4. They are prime targets to be victims for these enlisted deviant activities. He argued his family would only be safe in housing that is with officers, because officers are much more respectable and these types of deviant activities are incredibly rare compared to the deviant activities of enlisted being commonplace. He wasn't finished. He worried that other officer families will not want to visit us because our family lives on enlisted housing. He insisted that his children needed to befriend other officer children, and that he and his wife needed to socialize exclusively with other officers and their spouses. His grand conclusion was that forcing an officer to live in a large apartment building with almost all enlisted is unethical. This guy was basically a manager calling all of his subordinates violent criminals, perverts, and addicts. He was forgetting that we were also people with families, who were none of those things. The most infuriating part? The kicker that made everyone's blood boil? He was a Mustang. He had been an enlisted Army member himself before commissioning as a Navy officer. As one online commentator later astutely observed, there are only two types of Mustangs. Very cool ones who are proud they were prior enlisted and total dickheads who look down on anyone who isn't an officer. There isn't any in between. This revealed Dr. Harrison's greatest fatal flaw, a profound self-loathing projected onto his former peers. He wasn't just climbing a ladder. He was trying to burn it behind him. Forgetting that in the military, you're only as strong as the team you serve with. Everyone was furious. And since I was about to separate from the Navy, I had absolutely nothing to lose. I decided to have some fun. I created a burner Facebook account and posted the picture of the letter on a hugely popular military enlisted group page. Within 2 days, it spread like wildfire. The story took on a life of its own. But I wasn't done. The military has a tradition of challenge coins, which are like custom-made trading cards in coin form. I designed one. On the front, I put a caricature of Dr. Harrison's face. And on the back, a giant middle finger. To go along with it, I designed stickers so all us deviants could show our pride. I sold over 70 of the first batch of coins at a huge discount to Jenna, the friend who sent me the picture, so she could sell them for a profit. Soon, Harrison's face was everywhere. People displayed the coins on their desks at work. Imagine the scene, no matter where Dr. Harrison went in that hospital. He would see a cartoon version of his own face staring back at him. He couldn't officially complain because his name wasn't on the coin. The movement grew. I sold more coins to people stateside. And some even made their way to bases in Europe. In the end, I pocketed about $3,000. The story eventually blew up so much that it was featured in an online naval newspaper and on 2 popular YouTube channels. And if you know anything about the military, you know that the top brass only cares when a problem gets too big to sweep under the rug. The fallout was swift. Dr. Harrison was sent to captain's mast, which is the Navy's version of a court hearing. He tried to claim his wife wrote the letter, but no one bought it. She even tried to take the fall for him, but her story wasn't believable. And they both ended up deleting all their social media accounts. He was ultimately charged with 3 articles under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, 3 official offenses for his conduct. But the real revenge was yet to come. And it was beautifully bureaucratic. In the military, you have a set amount of time to get promoted to the next rank. If you don't pick up in time, you're kicked out. Because Harrison was new and now had a disciplinary record with 3 UCMJ articles, he was not going to be considered for promotion. This meant he was slated for involuntary separation from the Navy. To add financial ruin to professional ruin, the officer program he'd used had paid for his PhD. When the military pays for your education like that, you owe them 10 years of service to pay it back. If you don't complete the decade of service, you have to pay the military back in cash. So, there it was, Dr. Harrison lost his job. And he now owed the military a massive debt for his degree. And while he waited for the paperwork to clear to send him and his family back stateside, you can bet he suffered socially. No one wanted to work with him. He was completely ostracized. As another person commented after the story went public, all the Navy said was he had been disciplined but would not release details. Thanks for giving the rest of the story. Now you have it. 2. This story is a powerful reminder that true leadership is built on respect, not rank. Disdain for your subordinates is a poison that will inevitably find its way back to you. Have you ever seen a leader's arrogance become their own undoing? Share your story in the comments below.